This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Luke Sylvia and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic! What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is January 18th, 2024. Jonathan Osborne here, as always, joined by my co-host, Luke Sylvia. Luke, what is going on?
We talk about this often, but recording after a loss when there's been 2 games in the week and the most recent thing that happened was a loss, I'd much rather, at this point, lost the Knicks game.
Yeah.
Won the Hawks game tonight for the sole reason and the selfish reason of the just recording a podcast tonight. So really puts a damper on things. You just have to take a wide lens approach because at this point, yeah, it's rough.
Yeah. I feel like absolute garbage. Our whole house has this flu or bug, whatever is going on, 102 fever, body aches, runny nose, coughing. Our little guy pretty sure has some, form of croup. He can't sleep, so we're not sleeping. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to, obviously, we watch every game, but I'm going to force myself to sit on the couch, suffer through this game. Hopefully the game is fun. And then recording the podcast afterwards won't be quite so painful. And, it won't feel like we're suffering through that. And basically 9 minutes to go in the fourth quarter when we couldn't quite get control of the Hawks game. And we're going to talk about it, right? We're going to talk about the Knicks game. We're going to talk about the Hawks game in detail. Well, 9 minutes to go, I've never been more convinced that we weren't winning a game. And then Paolo, goes into that 3, and I'm like, 8 seconds left. You just got to get a stop. And man, when I tell you, I am so sick and tired of DeJounte Murray late game heroics against the Orlando Magic, whether it's last year, Paolo Banchero fouling him at the buzzer and him hitting the free throws to win the game. Earlier this year in Mexico City, hitting the 3 to ice the game. Tonight, the shot over Markelle Fultz, which Markelle Fultz defended really well, but DeJounte Murray at the buzzer, man, I am so freaking sick and tired of this Hawks team.
Yeah, I just rough all the way around. That final possession was brutal. Just the swing of emotion, obviously. I just had a feeling when Snyder doesn't take a timeout there that's going to be that it's not going to go well. Because a lot of times the advantage does go to the team that doesn't take a timeout. A lot of times the team that they just go, coach trusts them. DeJounte Murray not looking at anybody else. And it just felt like it was going in at that point.
Yeah, we'll talk more about the game in detail. I just want to give you guys a heads up of a few things here. First of all, next Sixth Fan Show we're filming this Friday outside of Kia after the Philadelphia game. Ben will be out there. Make sure you stop by, say what's up, give your takes on this team. A lot to be frustrated about with this team right now. We're going to talk about some of that on the episode today. Our next Patreon Zoom is going to be next Thursday, the 25th at 8 p.m. Eastern. If you're not aware, members of our Hall of Fame and Elite tiers in our Patreon get access to monthly Zoom calls where we literally just get on Zoom with our patrons, our listeners, and just talk not only Orlando Magic basketball, but also oftentimes we just talk about life and movies and food and whatever the case may be. So it's always fun. So if you're one of our Hall of Fame or Elite tier patrons, put that on your calendar. We'd love to see you guys. And if you're not, you want to be part of the fun, you can find us at patreon.com/the Sixth Man Show. Again, join our Hall of Fame or Elite tiers for access to our monthly patron Zooms. And don't forget, folks, we're still in the midst of All-Star voting season. Every single day, you can go to vote.nba.com and vote your favorite Magic players to the All-Star game. Jake Fischer of Yahoo Sports joins the show a little bit later. Our boy Luke Sylvia sat down with him earlier today and, gave some good insight on the impending trade deadline, Luke.
It's always interesting. You talk to a guy like Jake, and it's also interesting when you're talking to him about the Orlando Magic, who are so tight-lipped, and so got to have a really interesting conversation and asked him, things that I felt like were pertinent and what Magic fans would want to hear. asking about the front office and if how they operate is beneficial. Getting his take on that. Also, just about who are you hearing about the Magic being interested in dealing, and who could have you been hearing or think could be a good match coming back to Orlando the other way. So a lot of good things. Quick conversation, but a lot jam packed in there. Tried to get in as much in as we could to just provide some good content for you guys. So hopefully you guys enjoy that coming up here at the end of the episode.
All right, let's get into the state of the Magic. So far this week, the Magic are 1-1 with a win over the Knicks in Madison Square Garden on Monday, MLK Day. And then the loss tonight, Wednesday, on the back of the DeJounte Murray buzzer beater. The Magic now currently sit 8th in the Eastern Conference with a record of 22-19. They're 10 games back of first place Boston, 6 games back of Milwaukee, 5 games back of Philly, 3 games back of Cleveland, 2 games back of New York and Miami, a game and a half back of Indy. They're 3.5 games up on Chicago, 5 games up on Brooklyn, 4.5 games up on Atlanta, 6 games up on Toronto. And then coming into Wednesday, the Magic were 23rd in the NBA in offensive rating with a rating of 112.2. And they're 3rd in the NBA in defensive rating with a 111.1. They're 14th in net rating with a net rating of 1.1. Taking a look at the injury report, Luke, it is starting to get a little bit lighter. Wendell Carter Jr. returned to the lineup on Monday against the Knicks after missing the past 5 games with knee tendonitis. Franz now has missed the past 7 games with an ankle sprain. Gary Harris has missed the past 7 games with a calf strain. Joe Ingles and Markelle Fultz, who missed the second night of a back-to-back Saturday against OKC, were both back in the lineup Monday and Wednesday as well. So we're getting there. We're not quite there, but we're almost there. Like, we're missing 2 really big pieces now in Gary Harris and Franz Wagner, and Franz especially cannot come back soon enough. A little NBA news that is definitely relevant to the Magic in terms of like the playoff race and their standings in the Eastern Conference. Pascal Siakam is being traded from the Toronto Raptors reportedly to the Indiana Pacers for Bruce Brown, Jordan Nwora, and 3 first-round picks. I believe at least one or a couple of those first-round picks, the Pacers own like a few, and they're going to end up sending like the worst of the first-round picks that they have in some of these given years. So it's not just like 3 unprotected first-round picks, but it is quite a haul for the Toronto Raptors. A lot of people believe that the Raptors should have moved on from Siakam earlier and probably could have got a bit better of a haul with the fact that now he is going to be an unrestricted free agent this year. But by all reports, Indiana seems confident that they're going to be able to re-sign Siakam this offseason. Luke, what was your initial reaction to the trade?
I mean, the Pacers knew what they wanted in terms of the just the abilities that Pascal Siakam has, and Pacers are obviously weak on the defensive end while being historic, quite frankly, on the offensive end. Pascal brings the edge defensively, so he's going to help the Pacers a lot there. I think that Pascal is going to be a very valuable asset to them on that defensive end of the ball. He fits into the offense. It's hard not to with that offense for sure. And the amount that the Pacers gave up just tells me that they're going to re-sign Pascal Siakam. Like, you don't give up that many picks unless you are sure you're going to be getting Pascal Siakam to re-sign. So I thought it was good. I think it's fine for both teams. I think it shows us which direction that Toronto is probably heading, just trying to kind of build for the future. They're going young with RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly, and then unloading Pascal Siakam, who contributes to success there. And so it seems like they're kind of moving away from that. It's interesting to see what they'll end up doing because they did add RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly. I'm interested to see the direction that they're going to go. But the Pacers, while it is a great addition, I think it still keeps them in the same grouping. I don't think that and I think they probably know that, right? Like they understand that this trade doesn't catapult them into like a top 3 conversation. I think they're still very much in the same grouping as like the Knicks and the Heat and the Magic and the Cavs and all of that. So interesting step in the right direction, I guess. We'll see how it pans out. But yeah, I mean, it came through and I was like, I just still want more. I want more as a fan. I want more than just a Siakam trade. So Hopefully
Talking about
we
like
get
NBA
more.
drama, you want
Yeah,
more.
yeah. Entertainment level. Like great. And everybody wanted to I think everybody was just wanting to hype up stuff, right? Like Pascal, don't get me wrong, he's a great player. He is going to help the Pacers a lot. But wanted more. We'll see. We'll get more, I'm sure.
So what do you think that does for like the Magic's chances? Because we just talked about the standings a little bit ago, and it's no secret that the Magic are sliding a bit. A little over a month ago, this team was 9 wins over 500, and after tonight, they're 3 wins over 500. And if you're looking at the schedule, if Franz doesn't come back and other things that we'll talk about don't really change, this team could, like, within the next couple of weeks here, be below 500, which is kind of crazy. So what do you think it does in terms of like the Magic's playoff hopes and like seeding hopes?
I mean, it definitely impacts it somewhat here, right? Halliburton is still out for probably another week at least. I think he's getting reevaluated in a week.
I think that's the biggest factor for them, is like how quickly Halliburton comes back and if
Right.
he's able to stay back.
But so I think that the Pacers, like, are they better than you at this point? Their offense is awesome. Um, I think that as it stands, it might be, but I just don't know what this looks like. Really, is going to have to be until after the deadline that we can really evaluate these teams. Because who knows? I mean, we don't know. Like the Pacers have already been able to make a couple moves. We don't know what the Magic are going to do. We don't know what the rotation is going to look like. That's a whole other thing. We have no idea who's going to get play time outside of the obvious after the deadline. So I don't really know. I know that it makes it harder for the Magic to not be in that play-in conversation. Because if the Pacers can stay healthy, that's a great team. They're 7-3 in their last 10, regardless. Magic are 3-7 now. The good news is for the Magic that the Bulls are 3.5 games back still of them, despite losing a lot of ground as of late in that 9 spot. And there's a game and a half separation between the Magic and the Pacers, 2 games between them and the Heat and the Knicks. It's you just got to hang on and survive through the rest of January. You got to win some here down the stretch of January, and we've talked about it all the time. But that's when after deadline and after January ends, you can really start evaluating this team on where they're going to end up.
Does this impact at all your feeling on whether or not the Magic should make a move at the deadline or before the deadline?
The fact that the Pacers got better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much that as much as it is what we'll talk about with this game tonight and what it revealed in terms of the rotation and what we've been seeing as of late with, Fultz being back in the fold, Dell, who it's impacted and taken out of rotation. Those are the things that there just seems to be really muddy waters right now with the rotation. And that is more so. I mean, the Pacers thing might send it over the edge, but I don't know. I'm still not convinced, especially after what I'm seeing right now, that the Magic aren't, like, winning is great, but I don't know that they're not also just focused on. I don't even know what they're focused on, to be honest with you, with what we're seeing. If it's just like trade deadline up ahead, we're showcasing guys. I have no idea.
Let's just have the conversation now, because this is the way that I feel.
Yeah.
With the Tyus Jones move, I know people are sick and tired of hearing us talk about Tyus Jones. I understand it because we talk about it on every episode. This, in not to as large of an extent as the Pacers going out and getting Siakam, right? But that is proof of concept of, hey, we have a guy that we know is a star. If we can go out and get a guy that is going to help us now, and we're going to re-sign and he's going to help us win in the future, if the opportunity presents itself, and we talked about this, teams don't care about tampering. Obviously, Indiana has had words with Siakam's representation, or else they would not be confident about their odds to re-sign Siakam this offseason, especially not to where you would trade 3 first-round picks for the guy. So you absolutely could, in a perfect world, have an understanding of Tyus Jones' likeliness of re-signing in Orlando if you make that deal for him. And in my opinion, pre-Siakam trade, and even post to a certain extent, I still like the Magic's roster more than I like Indiana's roster. As good as Tyrese Halliburton is, Paolo, I think, can be every bit as good as Tyrese, if not better. Franz Wagner, I think, can be every bit as good as Pascal Siakam. And then we still have young guys on this team that we really, really like. So this is like the proof of concept of like, hey, what we've been talking about with the Magic, and even if it's not Tyus Jones, this team needs a legitimate point guard that you can rely on for the majority of a regular season. That guy does not exist on this roster right now. As much as I love Jalen Suggs and I love Cole Anthony, those guys are not point guards. They just simply are not. If you're relying on those guys to facilitate your offense, you are not going to have an efficient offense. It's just as simple as that. And to your point, Luke, my question is, what are we doing? Because I have no idea. You're not trying to develop guys, because the moment that Markelle Fultz came back, where's Anthony Black? Played like 16 seconds at the end of the first quarter tonight in like an offense-defense situation. I guarantee you, with the way that it's looked when Markelle and Wendell have come back, as soon as Gary Harris comes back, you're not going to see Caleb Houston. I can almost guarantee you that now at this point. This team, in my opinion, needs to and should make a move at the deadline. Paolo, Franz, Jalen, and a few other guys on this roster have shown you like, hey, we are ready to win now. It's not a case of like, oh, hey, is this team really ready? Are we taking a step like too early? Like, no, this team, when healthy, when they're put in positions to be successful, have proved to you time and time again that they are capable of playing winning, sustained basketball. And that has come mostly when the team has been healthy, but also when you have prioritized defense over the offense. And right now, for the past several weeks, it feels like we've been putting the offense first with starting Caleb Houston and Chuma Okeke in the last couple of games, playing Markelle Fultz extended minutes and going away from Anthony Black, and going with Wendell Carter Jr. down the stretch tonight because he was making threes and not going back to Goga Bitadze, who the Hawks had no answer for on the offensive glass, or going back to Jonathan Isaac, who they had, again, no answer for. Jonathan Isaac played 9 minutes tonight. Like, what are we doing? That fourth quarter and whatever the hell was going on with the rotation in the lineups, one of the more baffling decisions that I've seen Jamal Mosley make this season. I could not believe that was the lineup that we chose to go with down the stretch of this game. And I just think that the guys that are on this team that you plan on having around for a long time have shown enough that, hey, we're not waiting for guys to develop anymore. We're ready to win. Are we ready to contend? Not necessarily, but I don't think making a win now move, a smart, calculated win now move, jeopardizes your long-term future at all.
It really,
I'm sweating.
It really didn't make sense at all. Like you said, coming down the stretch tonight, and Mo Wagner not playing is interesting. We knew that at the end of the day, Mosley doesn't. No coach wants to play three big men, even though he did it for a little bit. But now that you've got Dell playing 20 minutes, it's not the case anymore. Mo Wagner was still a positive, like in terms of what he was able to give you. It's a spark plug. It's just hard decisions, but what shouldn't be hard is Anthony Black, and that is something that Kevin brought up as well. Last game against Monday against the Knicks, Coach Mosley has Anthony Black in the starting lineup. They learn Jalen Brunson isn't starting, and then AB just like doesn't get.
But
burned.
Not against Trae Young.
But then Trae Young is obviously playing,
sense.
and Anthony Black isn't starting, and it's weird. You just
rolling
don't have
out. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm so mad about this game. So rolling out Caleb and Chuma and Jalen in a starting lineup of Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. It's like, what is the thought process there? Oh, we want to put size on Trae Young. Chuma Okeke cannot stick Trae Young. It's not happening. And then the we need to talk about the Knicks game before we go into too much detail about this Hawks game. I'm sorry for stepping on your toes
No,
there.
it's fine. It's what people want to hear for sure. But yeah, man, I don't have anything else to add until we, if we when we get to the point where we break down the game. There's just some head scratching moments throughout the game, not just from rotation standpoint, but the players and the production and down the stretch, and just some crazy baffling moments that happen in this one.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the Knicks game. And really, what I want to do is I want to fast forward to the third quarter where the Magic trailed by as much as 11, and then the bench unit: Markelle Fultz, Cole Anthony, Joe Ingles, Jonathan Isaac, and one other person that I'm forgetting now. All of a sudden, I'm delirious and I'm sweating like a pig. They brought the Magic back into that game. Magic were down 5 headed into the fourth quarter, and then it was just really back and forth. This entire game, as a matter of fact, was back and forth. When we go to the fourth quarter, Paolo Banchero, Magic are up 1 with 2 minutes 11 seconds to go. Paolo Banchero walks into back-to-back pull-up jumpers to give the Magic a 5-point lead with 1:37 to go. That was really it. I mean, the Magic have a 5-point lead with 30 seconds left. Julius Randle pulls up an ill-advised 3-point shot, and then have you seen the clips where he just sort of like proceeds to walk around on the other end of the floor on defense, just letting the Magic really do whatever they wanted to do, Luke. But we're able to close this game. It was a gritty win. Obviously, no Franz Wagner for the Magic, no Jalen Brunson for the Knicks. But in this stretch recently where you talked about the Magic are 3-7 in their last 10, and you desperately needed to find a win on the road, Magic get a big one over the Knicks. Neither team really shot the ball particularly well. Magic shot 27% from behind the arc. The Knicks shot 32% from behind the arc. And yeah, just a real barn burner, this one, Luke.
This is Magic basketball. This is picture perfect 23-24 Magic basketball. The Magic don't even take 33s. They take 29. They shoot 27.5%. Then they score 52 points in the paint. And the Knicks score 36. If ever you see the Magic shoot under 33s and then they outscore the opposing team in the paint by 15 plus points, I bet you it's a dub. Every time. Because it means the Magic played their game. It was gritty. It was gross. And you only had 8 turnovers, which is not typical of Magic basketball. So to go into Madison Square Garden and where you haven't been great on the road, coming into this one, you were like 8-13 on the road. You needed to get it. They didn't have Brunson. You couldn't lose this one after, the Heat tried to gift you one the other day with Butler being out and Hero as well. It's just a game you have to have. And the Magic found a way. Get out of there. At this point, with like Franz being out, it's interesting. I care less about how we win because I just want the win. And I just look at it from a big picture now with the standings of like, we need the win because of the standings, and I care more about that than on how we won. Just win. Are there going to be things you can take from it? Absolutely. But until Franz Wagner gets back and we get a better idea and a clearer picture of how this team's going to go the rest of the season, there's not a whole lot of analysis. It's Paolo putting the team on his back. You finally are at the point where you get Joe Ingles back, which has been good, right? Gives you a lot more flow in that second unit. But there's just so many floating variables on this team right now that's hard to really understand what a game was after you watched it. So all that to say, you get out of this one with a win. That's the most important part, but it was very much a Magic win.
Yeah, I have to say I share your sentiment about like at this juncture, I don't really care about how the wins come. I just care that the wins do come.
Mhm.
When we go back like a month and a half, to the end of November, like the wins over Charlotte, 130 to 117, wins over Washington, 139 to 120, and 130 to 125. It was all right. Like, I'm glad that we're winning, but we're not playing Magic basketball. And it was like, hey, like the wheels are starting to fall off a little bit. Like, you're surviving against bad teams, but literally right after that stretch, like you get blown out by Brooklyn. You have a 10-point loss to Cleveland. You beat Detroit, you beat Cleveland, and then you get destroyed in consecutive games by the Celtics. And then you lose to the Heat, you lose to Milwaukee in the middle of a nice little 4-game losing streak there. At that time, when the team was healthy, certainly we're more critical just about how the team was playing overall. At this point, like the wins, as long as we get them, I really don't care how they happen. But yeah, gutsy win by the Magic in Madison Square Garden. Paolo Banchero, 20.6 rebounds, 3 assists. Goga Batadze, 3 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists in this one. Chuma Okeke, 15 points, 4 of 5 from behind the arc. And Wendell Carter Jr. in his return, 17 points, 7 11 from the floor, only 3 rebounds. And then Cole Anthony was huge in the fourth quarter, 15 points for him, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals. So good effort all around by the Magic. Like you said, right now, with the way that the roster is, and with all the injuries and everything, we're not going to complain about wins. You know what we are going to complain about? We're going to complain about games that you should not lose, like this Atlanta game. So last time we played Atlanta, game went to overtime, right? Paolo Banchero, I think, had like 5 or 8 straight points, something like that, to start that overtime. Magic cruised to an overtime victory. And then earlier in the year, DeJounte Murray hits the big 3 in Mexico City. So this was like the rubber match, right? Like, we're going to see this team again. But like going into this, like Atlanta's not been good. Like Atlanta just quite frankly has not been good this year. Right now they're 17 and 23. They're 8 and 11 at home. Like just not a good basketball team, right? Like they don't fit well. But for some reason, they play the Magic really, really tough. I don't want to sit here and complain about Trae Young again, like we did the last couple of times we've played them, because he just gets officiated differently than any other player in the league, anybody that I've ever seen. He can push off on offense, but if you so much as breathe on the guy, they're blowing the whistle, right? But the Magic, I felt like got off to a decent start, like especially on the offensive glass. The offensive glass is really what kept the Magic in this game, like for the majority of the first few quarters. Magic with 16 offensive rebounds in this game. I don't have the second chance points in front of me, but 52 points in the paint, 43 bench points for the Magic as well. And really, like, apart from knocking down shots, Luke, I felt like most guys played well enough for the Magic to win this game. There were small, not so much small mistakes. There were big mistakes throughout this game, like just whatever the coverage was on Trae Young, where like the big is coming up to help, and one of the guards is supposed to sink underneath the basket to try to stop the lobs. Like, what is Cole Anthony going to do to stop a Trae Young lob to Clint Capella or Onyeka Okongwu? Like, this is like 3 straight years now that I can remember of every time we play Trae Young, he just alley-oops us to death. Trae Young did not play particularly well in this game. Trae Young, let's see, finished with 18 points, shot 15 of 14 from the floor, but 12 assists. Like, that is really where he killed you. Onyeka Okongwu and Clint Capella, those guys combined for 27 points. To me, that was really the difference in this game. The Magic have 12 more shot attempts in this game, but Atlanta shooting 51 to Orlando's 43%. And then the Magic, stop me if you've heard this before, but left 6 points at the free throw line tonight, 16 of 22. And Paolo Banchero hits the big 3 with 8 seconds left. And then DeJounte Murray, the ball's inbounded to him. He goes the length of the floor. Markelle Fultz plays as good defense on him as you really can, and he knocks down like a tough falling 18-footer at the buzzer, and your team loses. But like, Jonathan Isaac was so freaking good in the 9 minutes, so impactful in the 9 minutes that he played in this game. And a couple of days ago, we hear that, JI's minutes restriction is going to be like 12 to 16 minutes, right? 9 minutes in this game tonight. 9 minutes, 51 seconds, almost 10 minutes. In those 10 minutes was a team high +8. So there we go right there. Yeah, I just, this was not my favorite Mosley performance of the year. I guess I can put it that way, Luke. What do you have to say about this disaster?
Well, obviously, I kind of touched already at the top about rotations kind of being unusual. The other thing I will say on the final bucket where DeJounte Murray is, like I said, not looking at anybody else on the court, Markelle Fultz draws the matchup there. The mistake that was made defensively, he recovered well to get his hand up in time, like majority in time for the shot. But he puts his hands behind his back because he knows he's getting handsy. He doesn't want to commit a foul. You see right before the shot, he puts his hands down, and that's when DeJounte starts going up. I'm sure DeJounte sees a clock. He sees Fultz's hands go down. He starts going up. And at that point, he's already lasered in on the rim, on the goal there, basket, and knows that he's going to make it. It doesn't matter at that point what Fultz does with his arms.
So I didn't hate that because of the way that the game had been officiated.
Of course,
like there were so many touch fouls in Atlanta's favor, but guys are getting hammered on our end per usual and not getting to the free throw line. But you know,
now the most frustrating part of this game for me was 2 minutes, 3 seconds left. Saddiq Bey takes a 3-pointer, 23-foot 3-pointer.
Is this the offensive rebound debacle? Yeah.
Yes. Saddiq Bey gets his own offensive rebound long, right? Okongwu, after DeJounte Murray somehow misses the layup, Okongwu gets the offensive rebound, misses the tip shot. Okongwu gets his rebound. Jalen Johnson gets the ball, misses driving layup. Saddiq Bey, offensive rebound. Saddiq Bey misses tip shot. DeJounte Murray, offensive rebound. Then, because if you give a team 300 chances, eventually it's going to go in the bucket. Murray gets a shot there at, to a 7-foot shot, right? Easy. At that point, there in no universe can you give up, what is that, 5 offensive rebounds in one possession. At that point, the Hawks were up 1. Then Murray hits it. They'll go up 3 with 1:41 left. Huge. Imagine you get a stop there. You go down. You get another bucket like that. That is a crazy momentum swing and point swing in general. At that point, you should have been up 99-98 on the other end. If you get that stop, get that rebound, get a bucket. That was a turning point for me in this game as well. And then the other head scratcher was Markelle Fultz going down 3-on-1.
Oh my gosh. You had to remind me. So, in the third quarter, Markelle Fultz has a 3-on-1 with, I think it was Paolo and Jalen Suggs, and just drives into the lane and then dribbles the ball out. Like the Markelle Fultz that I know and love would never do that. He does not look the same.
No, at that point, the usual Markelle Fultz is throwing it up, or he's just drawing. He's drawing the defender to him, making the right pass, right? Or like you said, he's jamming it or drawing a foul. Literally do anything but what he just did.
I've never seen anything like that in my life.
And it's so funny that I saw a couple people try to dismiss it. They were like, "Oh, happens." Like, no. It doesn't.
No, that doesn't happen.
Maybe on a 2-on-1, maybe, right? Defender does a good job playing cat and mouse with you on the break, and they force you to basically just either turn it over or dribble it out because it's not there. But a 3-on-1, there is no reason why that ends in you dribbling it out. I don't care that you didn't turn the ball over in that instance. Just atrocious.
Markelle was big the other night in New York. In the fourth quarter. As I'm talking here, I'm trying to go back to that game and see exactly what Markelle's statistics were in the fourth quarter because he had a couple of big plays. All right, he had 4 rebounds, 3 assists. He didn't even score in the fourth quarter. So people that were, and I hate that we're turning this into we're making a case against Markelle Fultz, but people were so vindicated about the Knicks game for Markelle and the way that he played down the stretch. He made some massive plays. Like, I'm not trying to make light of his playmaking and the assists that he had, because they were critical and crucial in that game. However, in the handful of games that he's been back, what is it, 3, 4, 5 games that he's been back, the sample size that we have so far is that the jump shot is completely gone.
Completely.
Has not attempted a three since coming back. Doesn't matter if he doesn't have anyone within 20 feet of him. He looks down. He remembers, like, oh wait, I'm at the 3-point line. I can't shoot these anymore. And then passes it or dribbles, into the lane. He had one pull up tonight from like 12 feet that barely grazed the front of the rim on the way down. Like, it was legitimately almost an air ball. The jump shot seems to be completely gone, to the point where, like, he's like 15 feet from the basket, and Bogdanovic is like playing off of him as if he's standing at the logo. Like, teams are not afraid of Markelle Fultz offensively now whatsoever. There was a pick and roll. I'm trying to remember when it was, either in the third or the fourth quarter, because we were going towards Atlanta's bench, and Paolo and Markelle are like in a pick and roll, and they're just like trapping Paolo off the pick and roll. They're not even looking at Markelle Fultz. So when you're in like a toxic relationship, and I hate that I'm using this analogy, but that girl, she got that sweet old thing. She got that sweet old hiney, Luke. And she calls you at 3 a.m. like, hey, I know things have been rough between us, but hey, remember how good it is when it's good. Don't let that one night of sin, okay, make you forget about all the bad times. Don't look at that fourth quarter from Markelle Fultz and be like, see, this is why we need the guy. Because where was he for the other, 27 minutes of that game? He was terrible.
Cardio.
Tonight, he was terrible as well. Like, looking at Markelle Fultz statistics for this game, going back to the box score here, Markelle Fultz in 30 minutes had 10 points, was 5 of 8, so was relatively efficient, but 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 steals, 4 turnovers. And like atrocious turnovers, 5 personal fouls as well. Like, numbers don't tell you the entire story. Markelle Fultz like was not very impactful in this game. And I'm at the point where I don't want to see a lineup of Paolo Banchero and Markelle Fultz on the floor together, because it does not work. We've seen enough of it now.
It is absolutely insane that I'm about to say this, and I know it's insane because of just how big of a Markelle Fultz fans that we have been, me, myself included.
I know what you're going to say. Just speak the truth.
You said you don't want to see Markelle Fultz and Paolo Banchero on the floor together. Quite frankly, I don't want to see Markelle Fultz on the floor.
All right, I didn't think you were going to say that. But I'm not. I don't strongly disagree with that at all.
I hate that I am saying this, because I wanted him to work out so badly. And it seems that even my take of like where I stood on Fultz and have stood on Fultz for years, that he is going to be a good starting point guard in this league for a very long time, I just don't see that right now. Now, my thing is like, I want, like I said, I want him to be good. I wish this was the guy that I could see being the point guard of our team for the future. But if you cannot shoot the basketball
at all,
and listen, I understand it is definitely a nerve thing. It's got to be. TOS, I don't know how. Look
at the massive bandage on his shoulder.
Yeah, I don't know how it works. I don't know how, if it just comes back, if it flares up, or if it, whatever, like the flares up, probably not the right term, but like comes back. I don't know how it works. I'm not going to act like I do. I never do. But I watched him double pump from like 6 feet away tonight from the basket. And I think he barely drew iron.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He barely touched the front of the rim.
Barely touches it. And
he's shooting 29% from the mid range so far this year.
And listen, if the solution is him rehabbing to get better and to get right and for this to go away, if that's what that takes, fine, but do not put him on the floor.
You know what, Luke? I'm tired of doing that. I'm tired of doing this. Oh,
I
when the
agree.
guy gets healthy, when he finally miraculously is able to get healthy and stay healthy. At least listen, I don't want to be like the Jonathan Isaac apologist. That's probably not even the best term to use, to be honest, talking about Jonathan Isaac. But at least when that dude is on the floor, he is a world of a difference maker. Like he is arguably the most impactful guy on the floor for the Magic every time he's on the floor. Every time. So when we're going to do this thing year after year of like, oh, when Markelle gets healthy, he's able to stay healthy. Oh, it was the knee, or oh, it was the foot, or oh, now it's the shoulder. Oh, now he's got to rehab this, or Wendell Carter. Oh, it was his foot. Oh, now it's his knee. Like, how much longer are we going to put like the future of our starting lineup into Markelle Fultz and Wendell Carter Jr. when they have showed us time and time and time again? And it's not their fault. It sucks that it's not their fault, but they have been given all of the opportunity in the world to stake their claim to being the starting point guard and the starting center of this team for years to come, and they cannot stay on the floor. Wendell Carter was awesome tonight. 17 points. Goga Batadze was still better. Like, that's how impactful Goga Batadze was. Like, Goga had like a double-double tonight. Yeah, 10 rebounds, 10 points, 3 assists, a steal, 2 blocks. But those 7 offensive rebounds are what was keeping us in the game for the longest time. And this season, Goga Batadze has been a much better defender than Wendell Carter Jr. They were both losing Capella and Okongwu on like the Trae Young coverages and the lobs at the rim. To me, that's more of like a schematic and like more of like a Mosley issue. Like, I'm of the mind, like, do the Stan Van Gundy, LeBron James in the 09 Eastern Conference Finals. Let Trae Young get 40. Let him fight for 40 points. But guess what? Throw Jalen Suggs and throw Anthony Black at him. They didn't do that at all tonight either. Don't just, because you know what is a guaranteed bucket every single time? A wide open lob to Clint Capella and Onyeka Okongwu.
Side note,
I'm just tired of doing we'll wait till they get healthy stuff.
I mean, I agree. I think you're to the point where you have.
I'm just sick and tired of being sick and tired. Literally, as a matter of fact.
I feel like I said this a couple weeks ago, but you've got to start consolidating soon, and I think you start with the injured players. You have
You've
to.
been doing this for 4 years. Aren't you tired of it?
Yeah.
I think Magic fans are legitimately at their breaking point with this stuff.
Yeah,
because this season was so awesome, and then injuries have just crumpled this team over the course of the last month plus.
It is just insane to me. Last year, we saw this team so committed to developing. Then you have a guy like Anthony Black who shows legitimately that he is going to take the open 3. Is he going to always make it? No, but at least he's going to take it. And he defends his butt off. And he doesn't just defend his butt off like effort-wise. He produces defensively.
And he's shooting 34.6% from behind the arc. Like, I can live with that in a first year.
What's his volume?
I can look that up. Keep talking.
But anyway, so it's just irritating at this point that you're not able to get him minutes when he's proven himself a little bit, right?
1.4 a game. Not great.
Yeah. But like I said, shoot him when he's open. More than I can say for Markelle Fultz, where they don't even take him seriously on the perimeter right now. And they never really have, to be honest with you. But Anthony Black, like, it's not just that you would be developing him. It is that I truly think that he impacts winning.
That's the thing, Luke. We're not going in the direction of development, or else we'd be playing Anthony Black. Yeah. And we're not going in the direction of let's win games, or you'd have Anthony Black on the floor. You'd have Goga Batadze on the floor in the closing minutes. You'd have Jonathan Isaac on the floor in the closing minutes. What is the direction of this team right now? I don't understand it.
I don't know what you get for Markelle Fultz at the trade deadline, but you've got to be looking at it, right? You've got to be looking at it. We heard reports about Wendell Carter Jr. You've got, like I said, Mo Wagner's just getting DMPs right now, and I understand that's a tough situation because Dell gives you nights like he's had the past couple nights. He's looked much better than what we saw the first couple games.
I'm much less upset about that. It sucks, but
of course
it is what it is.
It might just come down to that Mo Wagner just continues collecting the DMPs. I can get over that, like you said. Markelle Fultz playing 30 minutes tonight. 23 against the Knicks. And it's just some crazy, like 4 turnovers for him tonight, by the way, 1 assist. That's pretty damning, right? Like 4 turnovers, 1 assist for Markelle Fultz. That's not the Markelle Fultz that we're used to. We're used to the one that he was against the Knicks, especially in the final minutes. 7 assists, 0 turnovers in that one. Tonight, maybe it was an outlier as far as the turnovers and whatever. I'm willing to bet that, but he just was not mentally there tonight. I don't know if it was just like, oh man, my shot is way worse than what I thought it was going to be in this game, and I'm letting it dictate my decision making. I'm in my head, that sort of thing. We just don't have time for guys to be in their head because they're dealing with all that stuff. That's a big burden, I'm sure, for Markelle Fultz. I know it is. Former number 1 overall pick, and now he can't shoot from 5 feet and out. So I think you got to move him. Free up Anthony Black. If I could get Anthony Black to play 30 minutes in a game, I promise I'd be happier. He's not going to make the mistakes that Fultz makes tonight, and he's going to defend at a super high level and give you a much better shot in this one. It's very frustrating.
And the other thing is, like, talking about the direction of this team, when you're consistently making decisions on a nightly basis that seem to trying to remedy the offense, when you are preaching like prioritizing the defense, it's just really weird. Like, Wendell Carter playing down the stretch of this game and instead of Goga Batadze, and Markelle Fultz and starting Chuma Okeke and Caleb Houston together, which, like, that experiment just needs to end. Like, you need more ball handling in that starting lineup. Chuma Okeke go, like, the only ball handlers you have in that starting lineup are Paolo and Jalen. And, like, those guys are just being asked to carry far too much of an offensive and playmaking burden right now. And Caleb Houston has just gone so cold from behind the arc recently. If he's not making threes, you can't play him. Like, you genuinely can't. Like, he's good enough defensively, but the 3-point shooting is what opens up everything else for him. Like, a little bit of the playmaking and, like, the gravity that he creates. Like, once he hits a couple of threes and gets going, and, like, the defense starts to tilt a little bit to that side, it's great. But, when you're going, what was it tonight? I mean, the dude missed like 4 straight wide open threes to start this game. He was 1 of 7 from behind the arc. When you're doing that, teams are going to be like, yeah, go ahead, sure, buddy. You keep shooting those threes. So we've got to figure something out. I think it's time to consolidate, and that's the thing. Like, hey man, you want these broken action figures that I can't use anymore? You want to give me $20 for them? Like, no, of course nobody's going to give you anything of value for them.
Yeah, you're not getting value. At that point, you're just getting guys off the roster so you can get minutes for the ones that need it, such as Markelle Fultz, unloading him for literally nothing. Literally nothing. Similar, unfortunately, to what we got him for.
Yeah.
I'd
still rather Markelle than Jonathan Simmons. Let me make that perfectly clear.
Yeah, I don't know. Pretty even right now. I think you have to. You've got to move him. You've got to just free up minutes for Anthony Black. That's all there is for me right now.
Yeah, I'm not ready to say like Anthony Black is like the long-term starter, because he's got a long way to go to be like a serviceable NBA point guard, I think. Hate to say it. People are really getting sick of me saying it, but give me Tyus Jones, man. Give me Tyus Jones or somebody that can facilitate and shoot in a consistent way, and they are going to be available for the overwhelming majority of the season. That's what I want right now for Paolo and Franz, because those guys deserve it. Like, how well did those guys have to play before the front office is like, oh, okay, like, we don't need to develop, we need to build and accentuate what these guys do well. That's where I think we are. And the front office, like, are they confident they'll be able to do that in free agency this year? Because I'm not. So figure out a way to make it happen. That's That's your job. Like you got to find a way to get value for something that may be less desirable that's going to benefit your team. Like they've made moves in the past that they've done it. Trading Vooch, right? Like, hey, what would have happened if that last game a couple of years ago before the trade deadline, when like Evan Fournier hits that game winner against the Suns, we're like, oh no, wait, look, remember Evan Fournier is good. Like people were doing at the end of that Knicks game with Markelle Fultz. What if we did that with Evan Fournier and decided to hold on to that group, right? Like as much as I love these guys, like I genuinely love Markelle Fultz and Wendell and Gary Harrison and Jonathan Isaac, talking about health. You can't talk about health and not include J.I. in that conversation. But as much as I love those guys, like we're trying to hang a banner someday. And if we just hold on to guys because we love them and not because they're available and making an impact on winning when they're on the floor, we're never going to win anything. All right. Let's talk a little bit about Patreon. So first of all, our patrons, they're the folks that help make each and every episode possible. Whenever we have a brand new patron, we give them a very special shout out. So this episode is brought to you by Debo1980, who has joined the Patreon as a Hall of Fame tier member. We've had a big influx lately, Luke, into the Discord, which has been a lot of fun. People like literally talking Magic basketball 24/7. We talked about the monthly Zooms that we do with our Hall of Fame and Elite Tier patrons. And then we give a special shout out to our Hall of Fame and Elite Tier patrons each and every episode. So let's go ahead and start with Court Cousins, Drew Gooden, Armin, Carson Tulo, Jonathan Borges, Normal, Magic Player History, Gabe Gaines, Wiffle, Michael Martin, Jamel Miller, Michael Salapong, Donkey Punch Dave, Paolo and Francis, Warren, Pierre A., Dylan Holden, Mr. Mikey, Eduardo Sanchez, Danimal, Dutto 15, Bobby Skinner, Cody 93, Teddy Sylvia, Eric Lopez, Fuchsia, Bill Fulton, Edmund Lagone, Jose Esquilin, Caleb Pete, Cannibalism, Time Mr. TV, ESPN Really Sucks, Gear 95, Shred, Junior Bruce, Half Rican, Shahan 177, Bobby the Don, Himlo, Ben Himro, RM Prop 221, Magic Kid 714, Spanking Season, Soft Taco, Victor Cologne, Irish Magic Mike, Austin Lampy, Random Hustle, Only Franz, Maria, Keith Wallace, Fritz, Currency Kev, Ruv, Sal, Case and Green, Santi Leon, Kane Eckler, The Distract, Ahmad Timsa, Chansu, Tom Gatson, Dead Air, Richard Tuttle, Jeremiah Quintero, Barstool Magic, and Debo 1980. A big shout out to all of our patrons. I just shouted out 64 Hall of Fame and Elite Tier patrons. Each and every single one of you are able to join us for our Zoom. So I would love to see like 20, 30 people in that Patreon Zoom that we're having next Thursday, January 25th at 8 p.m. Make sure you mark it on your calendar. Luke, let's talk some chicken.
400 West New England Avenue and Suite 13 Hannibal Square. Man, jam hot chicken. Winter Park. You guys have heard us talk about them all the time. They have the Nashville and LA inspired hot chicken. Jonathan and I hit it up recently. Incredible. We say it every time, but like you said the same thing to our boy Andrew there. You said, I often wonder, am I overhyping this in my head? And then we eat it, and we're like, oh no, we're not overhyping this. Actually, false alarm. Like that, this is genuinely incredible hot chicken. So go check them out. Let them know that we sent you. jamhotchickenfl.com for their menu, online ordering for ordering ahead. And then also you can find them on social media at jamhotchicken. Let them know we sent you.
And now without further ado, let's get into Luke's conversation with Yahoo Sports' Jake Fischer.
And now we are joined by senior NBA reporter at Yahoo Sports, podcast host of No Cap Room, which is under the Ball Don't Lie umbrella, and author of Built to Lose, How the NBA's Tanking Era Changed the League Forever. Now, Jake, welcome you in here. And that's actually the last time we had you on the show. You were getting ready to, I believe, or had just released it recently. And so it's been a few years. How you been, man?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you for having me again and giving me the platform to shill this book right here. That's it's been out for 2 years, but yeah, we need to do one last push. So I appreciate you and anyone who's listening to give it one more thought, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the last time we had you on, Jake, you were at Bleacher Report. Since, as I mentioned there in the intro, you've transitioned to Yahoo, being the senior reporter, NBA reporter there. And the last time you were on, I wanted to bring this up because you dropped a little nugget at the end that I didn't catch until about a week later. And the reason I didn't catch it till a week later was because Steve Clifford was out the door, parted ways with the Magic, and you had said at the end of the episode something pretty nonchalant of like, I don't know if he's going to want to stick around for a rebuild.
Yeah,
Could be sooner rather than later. I don't really know. And then it
yeah,
happened. And I listened back to the episode the other day after we confirmed today, and I was like, Jake knew it. Jake knew all along. He
yeah,
didn't. Yeah. So that's the Steve Clifford era has obviously ended in Orlando, and now we've moved on to the Coach Jamal Mosley era, which is a lot
yeah,
brighter, a lot more upbeat, and everybody loves him, which is great.
yeah. No, Jamal Mosley is like a very, very, very well regarded guy, let alone coach in the NBA. People love that dude. I remember going to Dallas in the years that he was there with the Mavericks and like watching post practice, him, Luca, and Jalen Brunson would play like one on one with three dribbles. So
Mhm.
like you got to really see Jalen Brunson's footwork and all his like crafty finish stuff that he's doing with New York now. And B, you got to see Jamal Mosley like down in a defensive stance, like loving the work, the guys loving him, and it to me that also foreshadowed the type of stuff he's been capable of doing with Orlando right now, like top defense, unit of like a young squad, and they're arriving. I wouldn't say ahead of schedule because I do think like there was hope that they'd be on this upward trajectory, but yeah, he's been the right guy so far for that job.
And like you said, it really isn't ahead of schedule when if you were someone in tune with the Magic or been watching the games or just even just looking at numbers. You look at the 5-20 start last year, every Magic fan knows the last three-fourths of the year, the Magic finished at like a 45 win pace, right? So at that point, it's like we saw this coming. We were just banged up to start the year. Now getting bit by the injury bug a little bit as of late, but still going to be seemingly good enough to make the postseason this season, which will be really nice for Magic fans for sure.
I mean, they're still right in the thing. I'm looking at the standings right here.
Hmm.
Still right. I mean, they could get the 4 seed tomorrow, with a couple of things happening. Like
Hmm.
it's it is interesting to see there's really been a clear 4 through 8 established in the East. And like all these teams have different cases and different reasons why they could become the one to emerge with all that. They all have a different case and reason why they could fall. So
Hmm.
interesting to see how it all unfolds, especially with the deadline coming up here.
Yeah, and obviously the reason the Magic are where they are is because of the front office, large in part, right? Like you look at Jeff Weltman, now Anthony Parker newly as well on board there at the top of the front office. I wanted to ask you about them because you're obviously familiar with what they pulled during draft season with Paolo Banchero, how everybody thought that it wasn't Paolo, it was Jabari, and then it comes down to it, and there was a late switcheroo, right? Like that is just encapsulates what this front office is. Now, as far as when you talk about them, Jake, or when you report in general, I'm interested to get kind of your take on like if you're officially going to report on something, is it only after you hear it from multiple credible sources? Because you can't just report everything you hear. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's what probably happens a lot with this Magic front office.
Yeah, I mean, look, I got a running Google Doc that just has, is this guy unhappy? This team for this guy? Question mark. And you just collect all the puzzle pieces. And my approach has always been, I mean, I came up at Sports Illustrated where the company policy was you can't report something without two sources, and
Hmm.
really only would report anything off of one person unless it's like the guy. Like if a GM from a team called me and said, "Hey, we're doing this," that would be like probably the one like lone, not one, but one of the few lone situations where that could happen. If like a agent of a player called me and said we want, that type of thing. But to be honest, like people don't really like call me and say, write this. That's not really my lane in
Hmm.
this world. It's more about I have my people that I talk shop with on a pretty regular basis, and then there's like second and third and fourth degrees pulled out from there are people I call semi-regularly and once in a blue moon. And then there's the people that you call just when it's time to, I mean, like reporting on the Indiana Toronto talks from last night. Like I had just like heard through the grapevine certain things and certain players, and then you can call some agents, you can call a trainer, a college coach. Like it just sometimes there's no direct route to go about it, but you have your different lines that you can reach out to. And once you, I mean, I personally like to have at least two, and even like sometimes the two, just you're not left feeling good enough, you know? And there's certain things that you just don't write. And if you get beat or someone else has it, like it's
Mhm.
okay. 'Cause at least my mindset is there's always going to be another thing to write and report, and I'd rather not be wrong than I'd rather not be wrong than like have
Mhm.
shot something out there.
Yeah. One thing I'm certain of is that you've not gotten a call directly from Jeff Weltman telling you what he's going to do. Do you think that the privacy and the way that the public eye now perceives the front office of the Magic, do you think that that's accurate? Like they are that locked up? And also, do you think that does give them an edge?
So like my personal standpoint is acting so secretive. I don't know how much that really benefits a team because like there's a fixed marketplace here. You know what I mean? If Orlando wants to do something, like they have to talk to other people. So it's gonna get out in some capacity. And like I remember finding out the exact Aaron Gordon package to Denver like the 2 nights before it happened, you know, because these trades don't just pop up overnight. Like a lot of these trades start at the previous transaction window, you know, like the Knicks talked to Toronto about OG Anunoby last trade deadline this summer, then again December 15th. I mean, the teams that excuse me, the teams that are going to be talking to Orlando about Wendell Carter Jr. or have any interest in any of their guards. You know, there's a perception around the league, right, that Orlando should or has to do something about the backcourt. Like the teams that have been interested in Markel or Jalen Suggs or Cole Anthony, you know, just that's just what the situation is, right? Not saying those guys are on the block. Like those teams have made it pretty clear like the agents of those players, the other teams, like all Orlando, like they all know who wants these guys. So it's really, I think, the challenge from when a team is secretive and the benefits to being secretive are like sometimes things do fall apart when things leak and get out. Like it, because I think this is such a small business and there's a lot of ego involved. And I think ultimately, like people have a little bit of a self-importance as to like what this is. I mean, I'm not like discrediting a GM's job of what they have to do because these are multi-billion dollar organizations. But like, this isn't like international geopolitics, you know what I'm saying? So um I sometimes think the secrecy and like the caginess can actually be a detriment. Like you'll hear teams complain about how other teams negotiate and how their process is and whatnot. I'm not saying that that is the case with Orlando. I really can't off
Hmm.
top of mind say I've heard teams complain about it, but I think like the Paolo instance, it was good theater, but like it didn't matter at all at
Hmm.
the end of the day. Orlando was just going to take Paolo. You know what I'm saying? So like, sure, was that potentially an opportunity to get a team to trade up or whatever? Like, I don't know, because OKC wanted Chet by all accounts, and Houston was going to take either a Paolo or Jabbar. I didn't think they had any real like motivation to move up. So does being so secretive there benefit them? Like in that case, from my objective lens, no. Can it benefit them later down the line? Maybe, but I don't think I think people like to talk and like to know that I have a direct line and when I call them and not people like me, I mean other executives. I think they like to know when I call Orlando, like they're not just going to lie to my face. And again, not saying Orlando lies, but that's kind of just my. I know I've been rambling a shit ton, so I'm just going to stop talking.
No, you're good. Yeah, that as a Magic fan, like they're not just private about who they're, who's available for trade or all that stuff. They're private about timelines for injuries as well, and it's
Hmm.
frustrating to Magic fans for sure because we would like to know. I don't know if if players like it as much as we want to believe they do, and that it's like part of like the positive thing that like they feel safer in Orlando and they don't feel like they're going to get aired out in their news or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so it's interesting, and it's interesting to hear other people talk about it, especially someone like yourself that's around it. To hear you say like you don't know, like there really isn't a conclusion if like their strategy is really worth it. Maybe we'll find out later into their tenure, but to
Like,
this
will they
point,
win it? Like, will they win 7 championships, or will they, never make the conference finals? Like,
yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Who knows? And Jake, what I want to transition here to, you mentioned it, the guard situation, Orlando or Wendell Carter Jr. Are there any Magic players that maybe you've got any type of inkling on that you're willing to share as far as that you've heard or that the Magic have been at least receiving calls about or open to trading coming up on deadline?
yeah. The only one that I like feel confident sharing is Wendell, just because the injury that sent him to the sidelines for quite a while really allowed Goga Batadze to emerge. And I remember being down in Orlando during the G League showcase and going to that Heat Magic game and just kind of hearing at that game like, oh, Goga's like established himself and he's kind of like gonna be the starter here. And they really like Mo as a reserve big. Like there's no real like push to move him into the starting lineup. And what's gonna happen when Wendell comes back? And I was starting to think like, oh, maybe this is just like home cooking. Like, teams like to, especially when you have a guy who you drafted in the second round or you signed to on a minimum like Goga, like a second draft type of guy. I think teams can tend to overvalue their own work, if that makes sense. But then, like as December turned into January, and as we're getting really close to the eighth here, like the Goga love has, I think, spread around the league, and I think I like the consensus amongst NBA talent evaluators is that he would be like he's worthwhile enough to start exploring what Wendell could get you, being that Wendell does have a pretty value contract, all things considered. And there really aren't like a ton of big men on the market right now. Like you have Daniel Gafford, but like I don't really see like a clear-cut best center on the board. So that's also like a thing that would make it intriguing for Orlando. Just if you can drop someone into the market that might be able to bring you back some real value. I think it's smart and prudent to do. But with the guards, yeah, you hear, oh, they want to do this and they want to do that, but like there's nothing real concrete that I can say right now.
Right. Now, the last thing, Jake, I wanna ask you really quick on the flip side of not just who's going out for Orlando, but anything you're comfortable in talking about that Orlando might be interested in, or that you think would be a good fit, something worthwhile for them upcoming here.
I've heard the Magic have been looking for shooting. We've heard that for 2 years now, so that shouldn't be so surprising.
Mhm.
Then, you know, this is probably like the spiciest thing I'll say on the show. Like, I personally am waiting to see if they do ever look at making a big swing at a big guard because when Dame was on the block back, when the final stretches there, like people in his camp were saying Orlando they thought was like a possibility. And then like when Drew Holiday was up, people were saying they thought that was a possibility. And I'm not saying or reporting like Orlando was on the phone like banging down Portland's door for either of those guys, but I don't think those things would have like just been out there coincidentally. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it'd be an interesting long-term question for the Magic to really look at that position, being that obviously Jalen Suggs has found a great strength as a defensive-minded guy. Cole Anthony, I was not a fan of previously, but he signs this extension and he's having an incredible six-man caliber type season. But there really isn't like that clear, obvious starting floor general guy on this roster. You could say it could be Markel, but I mean, rival executives are always saying like, oh, like watch out for Atlanta to do that. I haven't heard they're going to do that, but that's something that is always being put on my radar.
Yeah, I mean, all of that as expected, Jake. Really appreciative of your time. Can you just tell our listeners where they can find you and also
Yeah.
plug the book one more time? Because I know we've got a lot of people that maybe haven't pulled the trigger on buying it and should.
Thanks, man. Yeah. All our stuff's at Yahoo coming up the next couple weeks. The Ball Don't Lie podcast feed, everywhere you get your podcasts. My show, No Cap Rooms, every Thursday with Dan Devine. We've got Dan's show. Vinny Goodwill does 2 shows, and the book is Built to Lose: How the NBA's Tanking Era Changed the League Forever. There's a ton of Rob Hennigan, Orlando Magic, Dwight Howard trade stuff in there, from that trade and drafting Aaron Gordon and picking Oladipo, and the infighting between Scott Skiles and the front office and stuff like that, which I know feels like a lifetime ago for Magic fans, but there's definitely some fun stuff in there. Like the fact they wanted Kristaps Porzingis in 2014 and they tried to keep him in the draft, but he stayed overseas, and then he was 1 pick too high for Orlando the next year in 2015, like stuff like that. There's a ton of fun little Magic. Well, depending on how much you're a fan. To me, they're fun details that I think any Magic fan would like.
Yeah, and also we talked a lot more about the book in our last episode with Jake. You can just easiest way, go to YouTube, type in the 6-Man Show, Jake Fischer. You'll have the one from a few years ago where we really spent, I think, like half of our conversation talking about the book, and we were so enthralled with the stories you were sharing, and especially at such a young age, like at 20, just hitting the ground running, pounding the pavement, and getting after it. So, Jake, once again, appreciate you, man. Hope you have a good rest of the week, and stay safe during this trade deadline season.
Thank you, man.
Luke, great conversation with Jake Fischer again. Really, really appreciate Jake taking the time, come on the show, talk a little bit of Orlando Magic basketball, and leading up to the trade deadline, Luke. Like I said, Magic need to make a move. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do.
Yeah. Again, big shout out to Jake. He's a busy man. I've seen it. He's already been on a few other podcasts as well, team-related podcasts, making his rounds. Super busy time of the year for him. So anytime at all is much appreciated. So go check him out. I believe on Twitter or X.
It's Twitter. Stop saying X. It's Twitter, bro. It's always going to be. I don't care what Elon says. It's Twitter, bro.
It's eventually got to do it. But his @ is Jake L. Fischer, and that's FISCHER. There, he is, aside from Shams and Woj, he is the name that I see the most when it comes to reports. He's all over it. Got a ton of connections. Made a connection with him. It had been actually 3 years since he'd been on the show. So hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Go throw Jake a follow. Show him some support. He's doing really big things.
All right, Luke. We've got Philly and Miami Friday and Sunday to close out the week. Let's try to get a win. I don't know how it's going to happen at this point, but you've got to get a win. Got to get Franz
Wagner for Friday and Sunday. We need it to close out the week. Man, just go 1-1 at the least. 23-20 when we sit down and record on Sunday would be fine, and then you've only got like a weekish left of January in the schedule.
So just like be above 500 at the start of February, right? Like you're 22-19. You got Philly, Miami, Cleveland, Memphis, Phoenix, Dallas, San Antonio.
Yep.
That's 7 games. So if you can go 3-4 during that time, you've done it, right? Like we've survived January. Like if you can split one of those with Philadelphia, Miami, Cleveland, you should beat Memphis. You should beat San Antonio. So you've got to find a way to get one against Philly, Miami, Cleveland, Phoenix, or Dallas. Yeah. If you're able to do that, you've accomplished your goal of being 500 at the end of January. And that will be a win, in my opinion, at this point.
Yep. And hopefully we get to beat up on some teams for a couple months and get ready for the postseason. Stay healthy in the meantime. Get healthy, stay healthy. It will feel surreal once Franz Wagner comes off the injury report and all we've got is Gary Harris at that point on there. That'll be
those nice guys come back at the same time. That'd be great.
Hey, bring them back together. I'll take a clean injury report. Haven't had that since opening night?
Pretty much.
Couple games into the season, but yeah, so much for a fully healthy season. But we need these guys back so we can finish the last half of the season.
All right, let's wrap it up. That's going to do it for this one. For Luke Sylvia, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to the 6-Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya.
Thanks for listening to The Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!